All right. Hey boys and girls, greetings from the Vaadin studios from Finland again. So today we're gonna have an awesome session. We're gonna have a big stuff here, big names, IBM Bluemix, Internet of Things and Vaadin all together. And this is gonna be a great session. So welcome aboard. I wanted to have Holly Cummins from IBM here with me. So she's gonna talk all about it. I'm the dumb guy asking the dumb questions and she knows all the answers here. So Holly, could you introduce yourself to the audience?
Sure, so my name's Holly Cummins. I'm a developer with IBM. I'm the delivery lead for the Websphere application server Liberty Profile, which is a super cool, super light, super awesome version of Websphere. We're really, really proud of it. And what I'm going to be showing you today is how it fits in with the cloud and how it fits in with Vaadin and how it fits in with the IoT, because it fits in quite nicely with all of those things. So I'm going to start by telling you a little bit about Liberty. Websphere application server, it's an incredibly powerful piece of technology, but with that power comes some size. So it does a lot of things and it's got a big footprint and it's sort of industrial strength software. And a couple of years ago, we looked at this and we said, what we want to do is we want to make something that has all of the great features of Websphere, but that's more suited to development on a laptop, more suited to the developer experience, which is that you fire it up, you bring it down, you fire it up, you bring it down, and then you do that 20 times, and then eventually you fix all your typos. And so we made the Liberty Profile, and it has a tiny footprint, it comes up and down really quickly, it's fully dynamic, so you can change the configuration on the fly and have that reflected. And we did this, and we looked at it, and it was great for developers, and we thought, job well done. And then we looked at it and we realized that all of the things that made it great for developers actually made it great for the cloud as well. So it's got a really compact footprint, it's easy to package up into a little archive and carry it around. And so we looked at this and we said, well, let's get this up in the cloud as well. So what we've done is we've taken the Liberty Profile and we've put it up on IBM's cloud offering, Bluemix. And so I'm going to show you Bluemix now. Bluemix is based on Cloud Foundry, so it's an open technology. But I think what I'll show today is I'll show some of the ways in which Cloud Foundry is a really valuable technology, and then I'll show some of the things that Bluemix brings to Cloud Foundry as well. So what I've got here is I've got the Bluemix Dashboard. This is the starting point for Bluemix, and you can see I don't have anything at the moment. And I'm going to start from this nothing state, and I'm going to get an application up and running. So,
yeah, actually, this is something we could actually talk the audience into a bit. So, what are we actually going to do today? So, like we said, there was Vaadin and Internet of Things and everything. So, we got a Vaadin boilerplate inside Bluemix at the moment, and there's also this cool stuff, the Internet of Things, the foundation, right?
Absolutely, and we're going to combine those two together.
Yeah.
So you can see when you start with Bluemix, it provides you a whole bunch of boilerplates that you can use to get going quickly. And down here we have the Vaadin boilerplate, and so if I click on this, what it will do is it will set me up an application, it will set me up a domain, it will set me up a database, it will bring all of those things up. And so I'm going to call my application Is It Cold in Turku, and I'll come back to that in a moment. And if I click Create, then you can see it's setting me up an application. It's setting me up, there's the Liberty for Java, the application server that it's got. I've got an SQL database, and it's bringing me up an application, just like that, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I think we've all seen lots of times on a laptop an application server running, but this isn't running on my laptop. This is running in the cloud, in production, out in the world. What I've sometimes done is I've brought it up, and then people, I can ring people and they can see the same application I can see, even though they're perhaps in a different country. Because this is recorded, that maybe doesn't work so well. By the time you're watching this application, may not be there. But I will just show that it really isn't just on my laptop. So let's have a look, first of all, at what the application looks like when I start.
Yeah, just hit the refresh, I guess.
I'll hit refresh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll start it.
Yeah, maybe that helps, yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, so now we see the starting page, the starting point for the Vaadin boilerplate.
Yeah, and I can go to my phone and I can see the exact same web page. So I don't know if it's not very large.
Yeah.
But there's not very much on the web page, so that's
Yeah.
okay.
You basically
you can see that
the
same
take our
page
word for
is
it.
there.
Maybe we can check in later when we actually get more further in the whole application itself.
It'll look a little bit better. So what we have here is we've got an application. It's a pretty blank application at the moment, but it's got helpful instructions for getting further. So if I cut and paste, all good development is done by cut and paste.
Oh yeah, that's
course.
the most common programming pattern.
Absolutely. Right. So.
Yeah, so the whole idea in the Vaadin boilerplate in the beginning was that, well, everyone will eventually set up a local or cloud-based development environment anyways. So that's kind of the part that we force people go through in the boilerplate to get the project, actual source code running somewhere.
I found it really helpful because I have to confess, until quite recently I knew of Vaadin, but I hadn't actually used it. But with the boilerplate, I was able to get up and going and get something running and looking pretty good. I have to say.
Thank you.
I'm not. I will freely confess as well. I am not a UI person. I'm a back-end person. I write application servers. But I was kind of pleased with how my application looked, mostly because it was someone else that wrote it, not me. So what I've done is I've pulled down from Git the boilerplate application, and so now I'm just going to edit the pawn just to move to the latest version of Vaadin.
Yeah.
So it's configured for 7.37. But we can go to 7.39, which is much better. Latest and greatest.
We can spice it up a bit at this point, yeah.
Yeah. So now let's compile that.
Yeah, so typical stuff. So what is just happening here is pretty much going through the dependencies and compiling the needed widget sets for the application and everything. So putting everything up in place.
Riveting stuff. While it compiles, I'll show you a little bit about the layout of the source.
Yeah.
So we have here the Vaadin starter. Oops, wrong one. And it's got a fairly typical application architecture. So it's got a JPA integration. So this is a JPA entity, which is a customer.
Yeah.
We've also got quite a lot of UI code. One of the things I really liked about this was, again, I've got a Java background, not a JavaScript background, and it's all Java, so it was very familiar to me.
Yeah.
So it was pretty easy for me to go in and edit and change things. But before we do that, let's look and see how we're getting with our compilation. It's compiled.
Yep.
Always a good start.
Here we are.
So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this war that I've just built locally and I'm going to push it out to the cloud. And so the way to do that is with a CF command. And so CF is the command line interface into Cloud Foundry, and Bluemix is based on Cloud Foundry. There's lots of other ways to do it as well. So there's a really nice set of IDE tools. So from Eclipse, you can right click and you can just do push to the cloud and it will go up to the cloud. You can also do it completely online. So rather than downloading the source to the laptop and then compiling, in a way it kind of makes sense that since the application is running in the cloud, the source can live in the cloud as well. And so then you can just go to a web page, you can go to Jazz Hub, you can compile it and build it, and then it will just push it right from one bit of the cloud to another bit of the cloud without going via my laptop.
Yeah, that was actually something that I felt really, comfortable with. Having actually, GitHub or Git repository for the actual project, and I just push my changes there. And then the environment at Jazz Hub.net will basically take care of the actual compilation and deployment to my Bluemix instance. So I could even set that, okay, let's do a testing stage first before going to production and play around with the overall set.
Yeah, so no, you don't want to test before going to production. What you want to do is what we're doing here, which
exactly.
is directly from my laptop to production. So
Yes.
before it disappears off the top of the screen, you can see I've done this push command, which is sending it up, and I'm saying it's the application, is it called Turku, and then I've just got a local war that it's pushing up.
Yeah.
So this is going to take a little while to do, which in a way, isn't great viewing as we watch it go, but
Yeah.
when you think about what it's doing, it's kind of amazing because it's turning this war that I've got on my laptop. It's sending it up to the cloud. It's packaging it up with all of the dependencies it needs. So, you know, at the
Yeah.
moment I've got a war, but I haven't got anything else, and it's turning it into what's called a droplet, and that's
Yeah.
Cloud Foundry speak for an independent, self-contained deployable unit.
Yeah. All right, well, it shouldn't be take that much. Pretty snappy.
Yep. So while we wait, of course, it also depends on the speed of the local network.
Yeah, of course.
We'll have
Of
to
course,
see.
definitely. Yeah. Yeah.
While we wait, we can have a little bit more of a look at the at what the source actually is. So you can see I've got a couple of views here. I've got this about view, which is my opening, and then it's all annotation based. So it has this annotation, and then that declares it into the GUI. I've got a couple of other views here again with that same annotation,
Yeah.
and it's all wired together with JPA and with CDI.
Yeah, so this
And then-
this is plain. You know, this is the stuff that comes out from the Vaadin boilerplate. Just the default stuff. Just there's a lot of material out there already about the boilerplate itself. The thing that I actually really like that we're going to do next is that what is the purpose of the boilerplate? You know, take that in and start changing it. So you started to change things here and there, which we're going to see in a minute.
Yep. Right, hooray. We're done.
Okay.
So before I start changing it, I'm going to
Yeah.
show you what I was starting with,
Yeah.
so that you can be really impressed at what I produced at the end,
Yes,
or alternatively,
definitely.
you can go, well, that's actually exactly the same. You can- So let's see. So if I go back to my application, it's got a little bit more substance now.
Yeah. Ta-da.
So it's got an application, it's got a database backend. At the moment, there's nothing in the database. So if I push this button, it will magically fill the database with, for example, customers. I can get graphs of the customers. And again, you know, this is all just there for free using the Vaadin framework. I can see my customers on a map. All quite nice. So this is nice, but customers, we've all seen customers before,
Yes,
right?
exactly. Yeah.
So what can we do that's a little bit different? And when I agreed to do this webinar, I was very pleased to be asked, and I said yes, of course. And then I thought about it, and I thought, Vaadin, where's Vaadin based? Vaadin is based in Finland. And then I thought, what month is it? It's February. And then I thought, I'm going to Finland in February. What was I thinking? You know, there's tech companies all over the world. Why didn't I find a tech company in Hawaii? Or, you know, perhaps, you know, the south of France or the south of Spain or somewhere that wasn't snowy
Yeah,
and
exactly.
cold.
We kind of learned on the way that we have to push the decision quickly from people.
Yeah.
We ask them normally before they realize.
Yeah. So once I'd said yes and I realised that there was no way out of it, you know, then my next question was, what have I let myself in for? Is it cold in Turku?
Yeah.
So I've reskinned the application to change the domain model so that instead of talking about customers, it talks about how cold is Holly. And so I'll show you that now. So if we go back to the command line, I'm going to start at pushing first, and then I'll show it while we wait for it to push.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
Yep. So if I go...
Yeah. So what you got here is basically the reskinned version of the same boilerplate.
So I'll go and hold up, and I'll compile it. Now let's have a look at what it's compiling. So this is my cold app. So you can see it looks fairly familiar. I can't claim any very great cleverness in the layout, but instead of a customer, I have a coldness.
Yeah.
And instead of a customer service, I have a coldness service. And customers had statuses like whether they had made a sale, whether it was a lead. Instead, I have a comfort status, which is frozen, frostbitten, chilly, balmy, or toasty.
Yeah.
So you can see
those are good
I was
ones.
I was a bit concerned as I was getting ready.
Yeah.
So let's see if my reskinned application, it compiled.
All right.
Always a good start. So now let's push it. And I can push it using the exact same mechanism I used before. So I just push it up there. I've got my war that's built locally, and I can send it up.
Yeah. So now they start to build a droplet again on the whole thing. Yeah, so basically all the changes that you made there was on the domain model, right?
Exactly, so yeah. So it was just a reskinning. So I changed the word. So I changed the word customer to cold.
Yeah. Yeah, so fiddling around with the actual, POJOs, just, the data objects or something.
Exactly.
Yeah, domain objects, yeah.
Yeah, but the views are all identical, except for some where I've changed the name.
Yeah.
You can see I wasn't too thorough, so I left the customer event and the customer form.
Yeah. That's okay, that's okay, yeah.
Yeah, I knew what I meant. So, let's have a look. Now, while we're waiting, I can show you a couple of things as well. Because, again, I was thinking about, is it cold? What have I let myself in for? And so when I got to the airport, this is what I saw, which made me a little bit concerned. But, I thought, well, maybe it's just a theme. And when I got off the plane, this is what I saw. And at this point, I was starting to get seriously concerned.
Yeah, that's the Turku airport, like this morning.
Yep. And it was snowing when I landed. So let's have a look. How are we doing?
All right.
Uploading the Droplet.
Okay. So not far from it anymore, yeah?
Yeah, still going.
Okay.
So, it's starting. So we can go, the other thing we can do, oops. If we look at the dashboard, we can see that it's running. Go back here, it's starting.
Yeah, starting up, almost there.
Almost there. Hooray! Ah.
Yeah, that comes out of a habit for Mac users.
It's
I hit Safari all the time,
habit.
although I'm not really using the browser.
Yeah, and I decided to use Firefox today, but I need to relearn my clicks. Right, so have a look at this. Oops.
Yeah.
So,
all right, good.
What we have here, I'm very pleased with my cleverness. We have the same application, but it's got different words, and so now I can tell you that I've written something really, really new and creative.
Yes.
So let's push the button and see what happens, because what I really want to know, of course, is it cold in Turku? So, is it cold in Turku? Well, it's quite obvious, yeah. Yeah, what I have is same application, different skin. It doesn't know whether it's cold in Turku. It's on a data center in Dallas. Yeah. So I need to think a bit harder about this. How can I actually find out whether it's cold in Turku? And one of the great things about running in something like Bluemix is not only does it take care of the operations side and providing the application server, providing the hosting, providing the routing, but there's a whole bunch of services that you can pull in. And we've already seen this a little bit because my application has a database backend and I didn't have to do any configuring of databases or setting them up or installing them. All I had to do was say, make it so, and it happened. But we can actually do a lot more with this than just a database. So if I go back to the Bluemix catalog, we can see there's the boilerplates that we looked at already, and there's the Vaadin boilerplate that we're using now. But I can scroll down. I've got a lot of choices of runtimes, so we're running on Liberty, of course. But we could also run on Node.js, we could do PHP, Ruby on Rails, so there's a lot of flexibility there. But now this is where it starts to get really cool. So we can have Watson. Have you heard of Watson?
Yes, I have. Yes, I have.
Watson is really game-changing technology. The term for Watson is cognitive computing, but I don't think that really captures the power of what it can do. We first became aware of Watson when IBM entered Watson into the Jeopardy game show. Yeah. And Jeopardy, it's not an easy game show because instead of just asking you a question, the answer is the question and the question is the answer. So it involves a lot of wordplay and kind of a reverse of logic. Yeah. And Watson won. And so it beat the human contestants, which was kind of cool.
Yeah, that's amazing, actually. Yeah.
And it can do a lot of other things as well. So, maybe winning at Jeopardy won't save the world, but we're looking at medical applications for Watson, so it can ingest medical literature and then it can have some really deep understanding of the connections between things in the medical literature. There's some other fun things that we can do with Watson. So they fed The Hobbit into Watson and they fed the script of the Hobbit film into Watson, because I don't know if you had the same reaction, but when I watched The Hobbit I went, but this isn't like the book, this isn't like the book. And so they wanted to get a more informed analysis of whether it was like the book or not. And so they fed the two into Watson, and then they did an analysis of the characters, and they were able to see, well, where were the characters similar and where did the characters have different personality traits. So we could use a similar idea to find out whether it's cold in Turku. So if we fed into Watson literature about Turku, blogs about other places, Watson could do a sentiment analysis of all of this literature, and it could see how often does the word frozen turn up, how often does the word "oh, I'm so cold" turn up, how often does the word "burr" turn up, you know, and then we could get a bit of a sense of whether it's cold in Turku. But that sort of tells you about the past, and what I wanted to know about is the present. So
yeah, exactly. So Watson will probably tell us, you know, whether people feel that Turku is a cold place, you know, altogether, or something like that.
Yeah, but I want reality.
Yeah,
hard cold
right
facts
now,
is right now, exactly.
Yeah.
So we can solve that problem because we have sensors.
Yeah.
So all problems can be solved with sensors.
Definitely. So talk us through, what do we have actually here?
So what we have here is we have a temperature sensor and a light sensor.
Yeah,
these are super cheap little sensors. I've got a kit of a whole bunch of them, but these are the ones that are most useful for finding out whether it's cold.
Yeah.
What we also have here is we've got an Arduino shield and we've got an Arduino. And then you can connect the Arduino directly to the internet if you have a Wi-Fi shield. But I didn't have a Wi-Fi shield, and I had a Raspberry Pi. And a Raspberry Pi actually costs about the same as a Wi-Fi shield.
Yeah.
So I thought I'll use the Raspberry Pi. So we have here my Raspberry Pi.
Yeah. So that's pretty much acting as a kind of network, well, bridge mainly in this setup.
Exactly, yeah. And I have a Wi-Fi adapter on my Pi so that it can hopefully talk to the Wi-Fi, and it's powered by a battery. So in principle, this is sort of a portable temperature sensor.
Yeah.
We'll talk about some of the limitations of that portability in a moment.
All right. So, okay, we got the sensor here. It's a physical device in your hand. We got stuff running on a data center in Dallas. So
we need to connect
the glue. All right.
So let's start by having a look at the Pi. So the first thing is, let's make sure that we can still SSH into the Pi, which isn't looking encouraging at the moment. So let's try again.
Yeah, the SSH.
Oh,
all right.
Dead Pi.
Okay, should we reboot it or something?
Yeah, let's reboot it and see. So I've discovered, perhaps if we, so what we're going to do is we're going to take this cable, unplug it and replug it. The Pi it's such a cool technology, and it's really made a lot of things possible that weren't possible before, but it does have some limitations, and as I've worked with them more, I've become more aware of the limitations. And I think some of them depend how you use it as well. So I try to run my Pi on Wi-Fi, and I think it's a power limitation because there's not actually very much power going into this computer, and it's doing quite a lot of computation. Sometimes it struggles and it can't actually, have enough power to make a decent Wi-Fi connection. It's also, in terms of its physical storage, it's running off an SD card. So compared to flash memory, it's a league apart. So it tends to be a fairly slow device.
Yeah, exactly.
And so what that means now is it's going to take a minute or two to reboot. So let's see.
All right. So but maybe we can talk about the whole thing and start putting up the pieces together.
Yeah. Let's just ping it and see if it's it's come back. Hooray!
Yeah. It's alive.
It's alive. So with the Internet of Things, this is sort of stating the obvious, but you need two things for the Internet of Things. You need a thing, and you need the Internet. You can see this isn't as easy as it sounded because we just had a bit of a problem with the Internet.
Yeah, exactly.
But the thing we're sorted for. And once you've got the Internet and you've got your things, they need to talk to each other. And there's various answers to this, but the one that I think is gaining a lot of traction is a protocol called MQTT. And it was originally devised as a lightweight version of IBM's MQ protocol. And it was designed for things like sensors and pipelines. You don't want a bunch of XML wrapped around the messaging protocol. This is a tiny little embedded device. It needs to be able to pass something without having to, do big processing and have big clients. And MQTT it's a super light protocol, and it was invented by someone in IBM, and it's now used quite widely. And so what I've got on my Raspberry Pi is I've got a tiny little MQTT client, and it's reading via USB to my Arduino every 10 seconds or every 5 seconds even. Yep. And then it's taking it and it's pushing it out onto the internet. I've discovered another limitation of the Raspberry Pi again, because it's got a wireless adapter on one USB port, and it's talking to the Arduino on the other USB port, and they do tend to fight. So I've found that, ideally an IoT device, you might have putting out a communication every 1 second, and that didn't work so well. So I had to try about 5 seconds as a minimum. And even then, I found that when the device first boots, sometimes it has a little bit of difficulty talking to the USB port, and it gets confused.
This is basically tinkering with the things in a sense. Yeah. So our things here is this kind of setup. But anyways, the data is there in the thing at the moment.
Absolutely, yeah. And I need to get it out of the thing. So what I'm going to do, one of the things that comes in Bluemix, and this is where we get back to Bluemix, is it's got an MQTT broker. And so I'm going to register my little Raspberry Pi with the MQTT broker. And then, once I've done that, the data will be accessible. So if I go back to my catalog, at the very bottom here, I've got Internet of Things service.
All right.
And so I'm going to make an Internet of Things service, and I'm going to bind it to my Is It Cold and Turku application, and that means that it will be available for that application to use. So I create that service. And then I'll restage my application.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to look at this service now. So you can see I've now got two services. I've got the SQL database that I already had, and I've got this new Internet of Things service.
Yeah. So now we're really extending the Vaadin boilerplate in a sense, adding new services in it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so I need to make both the client and the application, or both the thing and the application aware of this service. So I'm going to register my device. So you can see I've gone outside Bluemix now to the Internet of Things Foundation. It's it's another IBM platform, and it's integrated with Bluemix. And so I'm going to add a device. So you can see I've got a bunch of device types I can choose from. It's more of a presentation thing. So if I have one device, I don't really need to know what kind it is. If I have 600 devices, I need to have some way of managing that estate and trying to figure out, is this signal coming from the Raspberry Pi or is it coming from the pipeline? So that's what this is. So I've got a Raspberry Pi, and I'm going to register the MAC address.
So basically, if you would have your own custom thing there, out there, so the thing or even a laptop providing the data, you just create kind of new device type with the language that Bluemix is using, right? Absolutely.
And the things really can be any kind of thing, because MQTT is an open protocol, and it's a really easy protocol. So anything that's emitting messages to the MQTT broker in MQTT messages can talk to it. The one thing it needs is some authorization credentials and an organization. So it's given me my credentials now, and I'm going to tell my Raspberry Pi about these credentials so that the Raspberry Pi can connect. So I'm just going to edit a little configuration file here. You can see I've got old credentials there, but I want my new credentials to talk to my new application. Oops. You can see I made beginner error. I forgot the CD.
Oh.
So I've set this all up as root because it's I've got a service that's going to start on boot. So get rid of the old one, put in the new one, and now I can restart I've got this little service that I've set up. This is something that I just wrote myself. It's a little application which just talks to, it's a little MQTT client, and I've set it up so that it starts on
yeah, so this is basically the part that, just based on your actual thing you got there, you can do this, the MQTT client as the way you want it. In this case, you just built, get it correctly, a Java client running on the Raspberry Pi, yeah?
Yeah, and it could be C, it could be Python.
Yeah, exactly.
It could be a shell script, really. I chose Java because that was what I found easiest.
Yeah.
So now, if we go back to the Internet of Things Foundation, I'm done with these credentials, and what I really want to know is whether my application is working. And you can see that just changed from the last event was unavailable, and now there's an event.
All right.
And I can see it connected. And if I wait, then if I'm lucky, if it's working correctly, it will start.
So this is basically your client running on the Raspberry Pi. You wrote yourself. You basically, how many seconds you wait before you push some data out?
I think I've got it set to every 5 seconds.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I was. So you can see I've got a message coming in.
Yeah, something is coming.
And if I wait another 5 seconds, I've got another message coming in.
Yeah.
Now this is, you can sort of start to see again the limitations of the Raspberry Pi, because I've got a sensor, but what my message is saying is that the temperature is 1 and the light reading is 0. And I'm fairly sure that's not true, because
I think
it's warmer than 1 degree here for sure.
Yeah, something like that.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop and start my little client, and it's going to refresh the settings, and hopefully it's going to take more sensible readings.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so now if we go back to the web, we can see there was a disconnect event, and then now hopefully we'll start seeing some more sensible events coming in.
Yeah, just to make sure that everyone follows. So basically the Raspberry Pi here is connected to the internet by itself.
That's right.
Basically, so it's using a Wi-Fi.
No wires.
Yeah, there's no wires here, so I can basically move this stuff around here.
Yeah.
And so we connected the Raspberry Pi to the local Wi-Fi here at the office, and using the same Wi-Fi to actually access the Raspberry Pi here. So what happens? Raspberry Pi is sending the message to Bluemix by itself. So your laptop isn't really. It doesn't have any role in it anymore.
Absolutely. Yeah, I could turn my laptop off, but that would be a bit unfortunate for the rest of the
maybe. Yeah.
So I won't do that.
Exactly.
But you can see I've got useful messages coming in now. So that's nice. And now technically I do know whether it's called Nturuku, but this wasn't really how I wanted to do it. I wanted a bit more of a nice UI on it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go back to my application now, and I'm going to put some wiring into the button. Yeah.
So this is when it starts to be interesting for a Vaadin guy like me. Okay, how can I actually consume this stuff? Really show what's going on.
Yeah. So instead of when we click the button, instead of putting a label on the screen that says I don't know, I do know. And the way I'm going to know is I'm going to have another MQTT client in this application. So if I do a new message listener, and I'm going to make a listen method. So far so good, except I don't actually have a message listener class yet. So let's create that. And it's going to be an MQTT callback. And so this is what I'm using here is I'm using a Java MQTT library called Eclipse Paho.
Yeah.
So I will implement my methods, and I now have my first MQTT client.
All right.
Going back here, we need to do a little bit more work. I want my message listener to be able to connect to my domain model. So let's make a constructor. And
I think there are multiple ways to actually do this. Maybe even through the CDI or something to actually inject the service or whatever. Whatever. Whatever floats your boat. Yeah.
Yeah, I've done a fairly simple way here.
Yeah.
So now I need a listen method. And so when listen is called, what I need to do is I need to take my client and I need to actually connect it to the broker. So I'll do that with there's a little bit of code here, but you can see it's not doing anything too fancy. It's constructing a client, it's saying client connect, and then it's saying client subscribe to this queue. So it's just a publish and subscribe model.
Yeah.
But you can see I've got a little bit of red underline here because I want to connect to my broker, but I don't actually know what the URI of my broker is, what my username is, what my password is. And this is something that I don't want to have to code it in. I want my environment to just make setting up to that easy. And this is where, again, where Cloud Foundry and Bluemix comes in, because by binding that IoT service to my application, what actually happened was Bluemix created an environment variable which had all of the credentials and all of the information I'd need in order to be able to connect to that broker. And I can dig that out of the environment variable by looking up it's called Vcap Services, and I can look that up. It's a simple JSON format, so if we go back here, we can see it.
Yeah, so this Vcap Services is pretty much a thing that you will see pretty much in every Bluemix service, in a sense, where you put up something new there.
Yeah, and so I can see if I look at the credentials here for my Internet of Things service, then you can see there's all of that JSON. But I don't want to cut and paste that across into my application. I just want to get it from the environment.
Exactly.
So that's what I'll do here. So I read the environment variable, I parse the JSON, and then I feed that to my MQ client.
Yeah.
And I'm good. So I need to do one more thing, which is so far I'm listening to the messages, but I'm not actually doing anything when the messages arrive, which is a bit sad.
Yeah.
So I need to do something when the messages arrive. And what I want to do is I just want to pass it through to my domain model so that it can put an entry into the database, because the Vaadin application already came with a database.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'll call create on my domain service. And I'm almost good, except I don't actually have a create method.
Yeah, let's do that.
So let's do that. Let's also just save here, make sure we're good here. Good here. And so the create method is pretty simple. I'm just going to parse the JSON for my message, and then once I've got it, this is a domain object, and I'm just going to persist it. So let's make the parse method. And this is fairly simple stuff. It's just parsing the domain model.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just simple Java stuff.
So fill that in. And now I should be able to put it all together. So if I go back here, I can compile. So while we're waiting for the answer, I came prepared. So
yeah, so
yep.
It seems to me that
ready.
You kind of know what's the answer, what the answer will be.
Yep, so I'm ready. So I've got, and then we can do the push. So.
All right.
Yeah, we're so prepared.
Okay, good.
Good.
Yeah, like a typical Finn that I am, I'm so prepared with a T-shirt for the whole thing.
Well, I've been impressed at how much ice cream there is actually, because when I was getting onto my plane at 7:30 in the morning, there was other people on the plane eating ice cream, and it was pretty cold even in London.
Yeah,
and ice cream isn't what I would have chosen.
Yeah, but ice cream is actually pretty good when it's cold.
Yeah, and then I arrived here, and the first thing I got offered was ice cream. So we're starting the application. Let's go back and see.
Yeah.
Still coming up.
Yeah, still waiting.
You can see we're not faking it because it goes away between each step.
Yeah, exactly.
Check back.
Yeah.
Still waiting.
Yeah, almost there.
So creating the droplet. Would you like a hat while you're waiting?
Yeah, I think I'll wait for the results. I have got a good guess on the actual temperature that we're having right here right now.
Yeah. Yeah. So I need a sensor to tell me.
Yes.
So And if we go back to our dashboard, we can see.
Yeah, but while we are waiting, so just a quick recap what we actually did so far. So we created the whole system from the Vaadin boilerplate. We changed the domain model.
I've just accidentally demonstrated the scaling feature, which is that I increase the number of instances of my application to 9 by misclicking.
Ah, okay. Well, we're definitely going to need 9 instances for one temperature sensor, right?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I think this is going to be a really popular application, you know. So in order to handle the load, we need 9 instances. So let's have a look.
All right. Now something is starting to happen.
It's coming. So now, when we click the button, we should find we don't get the unhappy message. And if we go, we can to the table. Oops, still waiting.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
It's coming.
It's coming.
You could probably check if we are getting messages from the little debugging going on here.
Yep, so we're definitely getting messages. I think what might be happening is we might be getting quite a lot of messages. So we can see 30 degrees. It's definitely hot weather here.
Yeah.
Just going to bring up a new window.
Yeah.
That window seems to be.
Yeah, maybe we were a bit hasty on that.
Yeah. So let's look here. Here we go.
All right, we started to get something.
Yep,
so
sensors. So 30
far,
degrees.
Is it cold in Turku? 30 degrees?
Not yet, no. But
no, not really. So we are pretty much toasty, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yep. So if we go to the analyze.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can see. Toasty.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
And we can change the light levels as well. So temperature is not so easy to do without taking everything outside, but we can change the light levels, and then we should start to see some different readings coming in. But we can also go back and we can look at the map as well to see.
Yeah.
Where
we are getting readings from Turku.
Yeah, and we're in Turku.
Exactly.
Yeah, and if we go back to analyze.
Yeah, now we started to see some change in the light level.
You can see the light level.
Yeah,
so we've got the live reading of whether we're cold or not.
Yeah, but I think we're gonna have to find the answer to the true question: is it cold in Turku? So I would actually propose that we take the setup outside, throw it out of the window for a minute, and see what temperatures we actually get.
I think so.
Should we do that?
Yep. So now we should be able to do this. This is all wireless, so we should be able to just
okay. What do we have here? Is there something?
So we're sort of. Yeah. So we have.
Okay.
The
so
tray.
this is the whole portable thing. All right.
Yep.
So
and we're going to take it. And then
boys
we'll
and
see
girls, we escape the studio for a second, and we'll be right back. All right.
Yep. So welcome back.
All right, here we are again.
Yep.
And as we can see, there's something stuff going on the screen.
Yeah, you can see it worked, which is really cool. So you didn't go fully outside, but you went and stood next to an open window.
Yeah.
And you got the temperature down to 7 degrees, and you can see as well that the temperature was steadily dropping. So I think there was some residual heat in the computer.
Oh yeah,
and it took a while for it to cool down, but it was cooling down. And you can see on the shivering funnel as well. When we were in the studio, it was toasty. When you went out into the room, to the corridor outside, it was balmy, and when you were by the window, it was actually chilly.
That's actually really correct, because I'm pretty chilly actually. I was standing next to the window.
I have to say. So we've managed to measure and discover whether it is cold in Turku.
Yeah.
And the answer is, if you're outside, it's colder than if you're inside.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Amazing.
But is it cold? It's chilly.
Chilly.
That's the final verdict.
Yeah.
All right.
Chilly.
We found the solution. Yeah.
Great.
All right. Awesome stuff. This is really awesome. I really like this setup, really combining the basic building blocks with the whole thing. Okay, you got the things, you got the internet, how to, put them together, how to visualize the data, things like that. So I think this is really cool stuff. So
yeah, I was impressed how much came for free. Like just the little things like the hovering over the dots. I didn't put that in. That just came for free. And the same,
exactly.
With this visualization.
Yeah.
It was really good.
Yeah, that's so awesome. So I think we are probably pushing the code somewhere to a public repository or something. So there was this, as you may noticed, I was really impressed with Holly's. This a template magic with a certain part. So that's pretty much the some of the heavy lifting that Holly did for you, and we'll make sure that you get the benefit out of that. So thank you so much, Holly, for your effort. This was really cool stuff. Really looking forward to see something, the community playing around with this one.
Yeah, it's cool technology.
All right. Thank you so much. This is what we had for you guys today, and let's see. We're going to continue this saga on a later session.
Great.
All right. See you later. Bye-bye.